All right, let's look this week at building sections. And starting here off my floor plan, I've got my two cutting plane lines here that we have put in before. And if you have not yet, you want to pin these things in place so that they don't move. You want to get them in the right location. And if you remember, excuse me, I feel a sneeze coming here any minute. This one, I think that we aligned it from our roof plan. Yeah, because we want it to be right on the ridge. And then if you notice, I pulled the depth of it back in to where it's creating a slice, okay, through the building. And you want that one to be aligned with the ridge line. Uh, and then just to save yourself some heartache later, we can do it here on the roof plan or we can do it on the floor plan. But let's pin these. Well, will it pin? I guess it won't. Okay. Anyway, we want to get those in place and pull them down so that they're not very deep, and you don't want the ends of it sticking too far outside of the building. And in the same way with this one, and you notice the direction that we're going to go with this one. And I've moved it. I line it up here on the floor plan so that it's picking up one window, but it's just going through walls and the other stuff, not through any doors or anything like that. Because this is what we're going to work with on our typical section details. And it doesn't matter if they're called section 1, section 2. It doesn't really matter with it. Okay, but they're going to show up here, and then these should be adjusted based on your elevations that you did earlier. One thing I'm finding out is when you move these things in one view, it affects other views also. Okay, so you want to make the two sections. Now, a couple of things. If you look in the textbook, there, in this version of the book I'm looking at, it's chapter 21. That's the 11th edition. I don't have the 12th edition with me, so it's a different chapter, but it's a chapter on sections. And a lot of times in residential, you'll just have a one or two building sections, and all the notes get thrown there. Okay, as you can see in some of the examples. Sometimes you may have a complete wall section in a residential drawing, but in commercial drawings, you definitely have a wall section for every typical wall, and then you're going to have details for window headers, wall systems, foundation systems. You're going to have a lot of large scale detail. So we're going to do a little bit of both. The amount of detail that goes into a section really depends on the scale of that section. So with these, at this point, we're not going to add a lot of detail items to this. Okay, we're going to add notes to it. We're using a truss roof, but we don't have a truss shown here because we didn't use trusses when we made the roof. We just used a roof system. So all it's showing up is the top chord of the truss that we told it was 3.5 inches thick, and then we did the plywood. It's not picking up the bottom here. You could certainly add that in as a detail here, and depending upon where you work, they may require you to do different things. It all depends on where you work. Now, this call out, you can add that now, or it's going to be for next week's assignment, but you can add a call out onto that wall now. It may help you in doing your annotations. Okay. Now, when depending upon where you work, as to whether you're going to put all the notes here in the model or if you're going to put the notes on the drawing. Depends on the company policy wherever you're going to be at. Okay. So we'll create a new sheet for the building section, and I've already got this one kind of set up and started. And oh yeah, if your crop region box is showing up, you want to go into model space and turn that off. Okay. I typically do all my notes here in Paperspace. Okay. And here's a shortcut on those notes is if you will take open up your notepad, just your Windows notepad, and type in your information there because you're going to use it multiple times. Okay, you're not going to just use it one time. So I type it there, and then I can copy and paste it into my drawing. And if depending on where you work, they're going to have blocks set up with this kind of information that you just copy and paste it in there. Okay, so on our large scale building sections, these are some of the things that we want to cover. We want to cover, okay, what is our roof system made out of? Okay, what's a typical soffit? What's a foundation wall? Okay, our footing. And this is just general information about the building. Okay, and it gives our heights. One thing I haven't added my roof slope annotation here. So let me drag that in. Where did it go over here? Roof slope annotation. Boom. Okay, I'm gonna put it on this side here so I don't have to. Well, I take that back. Since this is a typical section, the roof slope is different on different parts of the building. Okay, so I just remembered that. So yes, here it's a 612 slope, but on the other wing of the building, it's a different roof slope. So you may or you may not show that. Okay, just kind of depends. All right, I wanted to show you how to do these things. So I've got one. Where do I want to put it? I'm going to put it over here on this side. So we'll go to Annotate Text, and I've been using the curve leader. Doesn't matter. 2-segment curved, either one's fine. And I'm going to anchor it there and kind of pull down. Now I want to go over to my notepad here, and I'm going to copy this right here, the typical sill assembly. It didn't have it there, but I can go up here. It seemed to work better going up here as opposed to doing the Control V. Okay, and so that's how you do that. Okay. And I took these from the textbook, just some general notes of how our building is being built. Okay. And when you do this stuff in Paperspace, now this is not tied to the drawing or the model. So if you have to move this, you have to select everything and then move it together. Okay. Because these things are in Paperspace, this is in model space, if you were. So move this one kind of down the lower right corner of your sheet because we're going to put our typical wall section up here and we'll fill in some other details over here on this side. So for this week, you're going to do a building section through here, and then you're going to create a drawing for what I've got as section 2. You'll create a second drawing sheet of this at 1/4 inch scale. Need to change that. 1/4 inch scale here. And you notice and you'll annotate it as just like with information from kind of the chapter there in the textbook. And I'll post a couple of PDFs of how these things look when we get it done. And it seems like it's kind of easy for this week, but it's going to get you going. And then as soon as you get done with these, move on into next week's, because the next week's will be a little more detailed and take a little bit more time. If you got questions, shoot me an email or come see me in the lab.